Well, today I'm going to review one of the best James Bond movies of all time with Pierce Brosnan in it. But in reality, we're actually going to look at a TV set that's also got the same name as the movie. It's actually an LG GoldenEye TV. This one's a CF29H30. I think it's basically a 28 incher or 68 centimetre. I think these came out around 2000, early 2000s. I remember fixing a few of these under warranty in that era, so maybe it was a bit, around 2003, somewhere like that, maybe even later, but around that sort of, somewhere between 2000 and 2005 I think these came out. This was actually one I got off Gumtree, and it was free. I'd actually looked on Gumtree the same day and then didn't see anything, and the guy must have listed it just afterwards, but someone on Facebook in the CRT group mentioned that there were some giveaway TVs, and they happened to be not far from me. I already had to drive halfway to where this guy lived to get something from the post office anyway. So I got onto him. I got this LG plus a Celestial, I think it is, same size Celestial, a bit earlier, silver case TV, and still a curved screen, not a flat one, and also a Panasonic Plasma, and as an added bonus got a 19-inch, I forget what brand, Galaxy or something, random brand VGA computer monitor. So I managed to fit all that in the car at once. And he had the remotes. The only thing, the Plasma remote doesn't look to have been the correct one. It's actually for a DVD player or something, but we've got the remote for this LG. I have given it a quick run, and the remote doesn't work 100%. Basically someone was saying these were an easy set to modify to RGB, these LGs of this era. I know there were a few different models that look basically the same as this, and I thought, it might be a fun little job to do that, and before I pass it on to someone else who might actually want it. And it turns out it's actually already got RGB Scart on the thing, so as long as you put a blanking voltage in there, it'll convert AV1 over to RGB input. So I did give it a quick test. It does all seem to run. The only thing is the tube looks like it's possibly a little out of focus or a little bit soft. And yeah, the remote will need some work. So I'll flick this thing on and flick the pattern generator on and see what it does. The other thing I noticed with this, the picture was very grey in the whites when I first switched it on, but again, that was what this thing's named for, the GoldenEye. So it was actually the light sensor was turned on. It does come on in this RF, so it's on AV1, and we're currently on the pattern generator in RGB. And if I disconnect that 5-volt switching voltage, it just goes to like a rubbish. It's basically going back to, that's what's coming through the AV, this composite mode. And I'll see if I can get that GoldenEye thing back on. You notice the white's quite good here. It is a little lacking in brightness possibly, but it's not too bad. But I think it's under menu here somewhere. Some of these buttons work, some don't. I think I can't get the menu part to work. How do we press? How did I go? Oh, you got to press menu several times, that's right. Child lock. Yeah, where did I find it? Base drill, balanced around. Input. No. I did find the GoldenEye here somewhere. Maybe because I've turned, oh, here it is. There's an I button on the, oh, there it is. I off. Looks like there's other different settings. But I noticed it was, oh, here we go. If I cover that up, I think that's what it was doing. Yeah, it was making the whites kind of grey. So it obviously takes like, I don't know if it's the brightness as such, but it takes something out of there. The brightness does look like it ramps down. So all it is an LDR in here, and this where this little GoldenEye, what does it say, natural algorithm I. It's just an LDR, light dependent resistor, the old CDS cell thing, cadmium sulfate or whatever it is. Standard thing. These have been in TVs for many years. I actually originally thought the first ones to have them was like the Sharp 1970s TV. About 1975 they put out the C224. And 264, I think, was the 26-inch version. They had them, old wooden cabinet TV. I've actually got some of the LDRs here somewhere because I used to pull them out of the TV and save them, because they were often a write-off, those sets. They had all sorts of different issues. And I think the C206 Sharp was a plastic cabinet, 18-inch or 20-inch or something. And they were common for yolks and stuff dying in those. They were often also a write-off. They had them as well from memory. And interestingly, I've got a black and white TV here somewhere. I forget, it's a British brand, quite a rare brand in Australia, but that actually has one in it. So that's from probably the 60s. So we didn't get a black and white TV in Australia until 55, and this one isn't one of the really early ones, I don't think, so it's probably somewhere in the 1960s, and that's got an LDR in the front of it, which I assume does something similar. So it's not any sort of new tech, and it's really just a bit of a gimmicky feature. Maybe some people bothered to use it, but you tend to find it, yeah, it ruins the picture a bit, if anything. And that's about all it really achieves. Can I turn that? Oh, what? We've got a green. Oh, so there's another mode. Yellow mode, green mode. So what does the algorithm do? Pretty much the same thing. I haven't actually got a manual for one of these. I don't think I've ever looked in the manual to see, but I did have a quick look in the service manual just to see whether they use something a bit more modern than a LDR. But they just use an old light dependent resistor, so nothing flash there. And other than that, we've got, I think, 3 AV inputs, all just composite, I think. I'll double check that on the back, and back to the tuner. And if we go to the, well, I probably should mute that audio because there's nothing plugged into the audio. If we go to dots, wherever they are, there, they're quite blurry looking. Little bit of convergence issues in it. See a bit of blue, green, and red on the other side. Not too bad. The geometry beside that is actually pretty good. We've got a little bit of a line showing. So maybe there's a slight bow on the top, but I mean that's pretty good. Better than a lot of the flat screen TVs of the same sort of era managed. And I think I was at maximum. Oh, I think we've got to do it through here. Did I have the brightness right up? Oh, that's not fully up. Must have been thinking of the something else. The monitor, I think it was at maximum. So this isn't too bad in the brightness range by the look of it. Where are we? Oh, I can't turn the does this one have a grey? It doesn't have a grayscale in RGB mode, this thing, unfortunately, but that grayscale's a good way to test your. Oh, we're back on, that's contrast. Test your brightness. So that does go all the way up to 100. It's not overly bright in the black there, so that's a sign it might be a little bit lower than it should be. I usually like to have the brightness so you can actually see the black band starting to actually light up. This one is slightly, but not what you would call great. We've got the thing turned off, the golden eye, so at least that's not overriding it. Still looks slightly grey in there for some reason. Is that because we've got the menu up? Yeah, white still doesn't look. Definitely turned the eye off, didn't I? Eye off. And it's not a purity error, I don't think. Even that does look slightly, to me, slightly darker down there. So maybe we've got some issue in the video or something. Video section. But yeah, this is a pretty old TV now. I don't know how much use it's had, but probably quite a bit. Cabinet's a bit scuffed up and stuff, but hopefully that'll clean off. I think we'll pull this into bits and have a look inside. I haven't seen inside one of these since probably around 2005. And like I say, I think this could at least do with a quick tweak of the focus. See if we can get it better. Pull that out. And yeah, it's just a, so we've got an AV out, but no component. Whereas the other Celestial TV I got does actually have component inputs. Quite dirty, as you can see. Don't think it gives any idea when it was made, unfortunately. But I think these were still under warranty in the, like I say, that's sort of getting towards the probably more the 2002 to 2005 era. Hard to remember which ones, what I actually fixed under warranty and what was just a repair at the warranty agents. But I know I definitely pulled the back off a few of these era. It was in a flat screen there, widescreen flat screen TVs from LG were breaking down lots. A lot more than these things did, so these were quite reliable generally. But yeah, if you're the warranty agent, you're always going to see a few out of the hundreds and thousands that they sell. I thought there was a screw there, I just didn't spot it. I thought there was one somewhere, and it was hiding under dust. So pretty dirty in there, so I'd say it's had a bit of use. But I've got a big A68 QBC230 tube in it, made by LG of course. Okay, a bit of a camera failure there with the memory card running out. I forgot I only had the small one in it. So this is definitely an MC74 chassis because it says so on the power supply board. Don't think it says so on the main board anywhere, or does it? Yes it does, MC74 over near the speaker connector. So I think a lot of the time with these TVs I used to work on them face down, it was just easier. But because you didn't have to mess around undoing all the cabling and stuff necessarily. This one I think we'll put it face up since I haven't got any carpet on this bench. Maybe I should take that neck board back off. So I've got our, haven't checked the filter cap in this, so I better treat it with a bit of caution. But that's our power supply board. Like I say, MC74 written on it. And yeah, there's, I think those power switches are one of the things that used to play up in these TVs. That one doesn't look like it's ever been replaced, but I think that was a very common issue in these from memory. Maybe they had a bad batch in some and not in others. But this one doesn't look like, or maybe this guy just never used his on-off switch, he just used the remote all the time. Even they have to use it occasionally just to get that PTC to fire. Actually this one's got a relay, so you probably don't even need it for that. Because what would happen with a lot of these TVs, people ring up and say, oh my TV's got blodgy colours and stuff on it, and you just tell them, look, if you just use it with a remote, just turn it off at the power point, leave it 5-10 minutes, plug it back into the power point, and you should hear a bit of a clunking sound, and that'll be it degaussing, and it should be right after that. So that was probably an issue with manufacturers getting warranty claims, or people ringing up helplines or whatever, so they put these relays in them, so every time you turn it out of standby, the actual relay will flick the PTC and the degaussing circuit into action. Much better idea, because then it gets done every time, like a normal old school TV where you just use the power switch to turn it on and off. Now I'm looking at the joints, this all looks like very good soldering in this, so that's good to see. I did notice a couple of these resistors on the neck board, and maybe the RGB drive transistors are have been a little bit hot, so they might want going over. But this set generally looks pretty good. Looks like we can carefully unplug the power supply. I should check that. Really check the filter cap in that and see whether it stays charged or not. Always assume they're out to kill you, but chances are this won't have anything in it, and you should be careful these other secondary caps as well. Shouldn't even really be touching the heatsink or anything, because that could be live until you've checked that. We've got 23 volts on the 400 volt filter cap, and so these are good. They've got those little solder eyelet things to stop them getting dry joints. There's one of them there. On the secondary, that shouldn't have anything, and that doesn't have anything. Does that dry joint look a little bit dry there, or is it just, I think it's just the light, the way it's catching it. I know some sets had problems with these ST 6709, I think it was more the Sonys they used to play up in a lot because the caps would fail around them. But this actually looks like a pretty good power supply. Nothing's been running hot in it, so maybe LG managed to outdo Sony then in the end, instead of being the one with the unreliable power supply. But yeah, this is actually amazingly good. They certainly upped their game by the time they were building TVs like this. The soldering looks excellent in it. Possibly been a little bit warm around this area, but for an LG TV that's pretty amazing. What do we got here? Another, that must be the vertical output. Looks like it's got a TDA something. Not sure if they used to fail, but I might resolder around there a bit. I think these would be like a TDA 86 something kind of era. And yeah, what was the main chip? TDA 8375. So that's one that the RGB inputs go into. Got an LA chip for the speakers, for the amplifier. And yeah, I can't remember if I had any horizontal issues or anything with these. But I'll get the soldering iron on. Again, I've got no idea how many hours this TV's actually done. But it looks like it probably had a decent amount of use. We'll go over all these caps and stuff here. Definitely been hot around this vertical chip. I mean, the vertical heatsink, well, you can sort of see the pattern on the board there. Anything around that's been reasonably hot. Heading back into the horizontal area, maybe here, or yoke area. I'll just go over those components. Yeah, good to see lots of those little eyelet things. There's a diode there's not looking the best. Well, that was definitely on its way to be a dry joint. I wonder if that runs power to the vertical. Comes down here. Yeah, wouldn't you know it? Always seems to be stuff in the vertical circuit. That's D307 here. Again, runs, I don't know why the vertical circuit, I guess it's sort of running all the time, so yeah, 16 volts. I'd say that's feeding our vertical. And yeah, these pins on this chip definitely look like they didn't have much life. Yeah, that one just peeled right back. This one here is very dodgy. And the one next to it, pin 2. It's all that back row, pretty bad here. The whole lot of them look like, you know, it's a few more moves of the TV around the place before something starts collapsing in the vertical. Yeah, they're as bad as. So they definitely want to do, and I'll do these resistors and stuff around it. Doesn't take long, and it will fix probably the main issue that's ever going to go wrong with this TV. Assuming that it hasn't got a iffy power switch that just never got replaced because it never got used. But whether anyone's going to use it in the future, who knows? Some people must have used them an awful lot, I think, which is odd in a modern TV, but maybe just habit. I guess the other thing we should check is caps around this vertical chip, because that's another thing that's definitely in the area where we're likely to have problems. I might just solder that 200 volt up to the tube. Doesn't look the best. Always check your RCA sockets, they look okay. But front RCA's probably never been used. Bit of dirt on the board there. And it's worth checking the buttons if you think they've been used much, in case they've been pressed a lot and worked themselves loose. Let's have a look at the vertical. So that's the vertical, this big heatsink here. And we've got one electrode somewhat near it. Another one there near a resistor. There's a couple other electrodes over there, which are probably on that rectifier diode, which I think was the one we saw, D309 or whatever. I think that's it over there. So there's 2 electrodes near that. Is that the one? Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, one of them's definitely in that, will be the filter cap after that diode is rectified. Probably 100 microfarad or something. 0.11, so that's very low. There's one here which I think is in the yoke circuit, 4.7, that's probably something completely different. 10 mic at 160 volt or something. Where were those other ones? Down the front of the heatsink here somewhere. C302. 0.1. That would be good. That's not that cap, I don't think. Where's the other one? Oh, up here. C301, which is up closer to the heatsink, and that's 0.19, so that's still most likely fine. And did I put a solder bridge there? I swear I did. That's a bit naughty. Yeah, I did too. Getting slack. At least I spotted it before putting power on. But that's why you check your work. I think even that jumper wire there looks a bit iffy. Maybe that cap, that wire, oh, it's an inductor maybe. Yeah, that'd be embarrassing if you get a solder bridge and kill something. Haven't done that in a long time, but it's going to happen again one day, no doubt. I think we can put all these bits back into place. Plug our wires back in. Where was that one over? Was it over there? It's there somewhere. Must be that one. And we've got to plug the power supply back into that. I reckon that power cord went over there. There's our connector. This does not want to go back in for some reason. I reckon that little clamp grommet thing's catching on the edge of the bench is what it was. Plug that back in, put our degaussing coil back in. It's always an easy one to forget. They clicked back in nicely. We've got to put, ooh, careful, see that's the sort of thing that causes issues too. Gotta watch those EHT leads on the neck board. Good way to break the end off a tube if you're not careful. Some of them are pretty good, and other ones it takes nothing, absolutely nothing, to a little bit of sideways pressure and the end of the tube will just crack around where the glass changes direction. So always something to watch. I should have really had the board off, that's another reason to keep it off. Oh, I think the soldering's actually pretty good on there. Yeah, it all looks pretty good. And what I do want to do is also tweak these two little adjustments. Always safest to work with a mirror in front of the TV and work from the back. That way you're always got your hands where you can see them, you're not leaning over the yoke or the neck board, touching potentially live voltages. But here I should actually be able to get my hand around the back and I can see what I'm doing. It's pretty safe, I think. Well, let's see if it still fires up. Hopefully I didn't kill something there. Bit of a worry putting a bit of a short there. So we've got on-screen display, that's a good sign. Where does this SCART need to go? Okay, power on. Oh, I've got to fix this remote too. AV. I'll shut that audio up. It's quite a noisy amplifier in it when it doesn't have a signal on it. And there we have the dot pattern. Probably should switch that light off, make it a bit more obvious. Should really let it warm up a little bit before you go tweaking everything. I don't think it matters too much with the focus and stuff. Ooh yeah, she's not the greatest. getting towards one end, but it's not there yet. Right there somewhere. And I might give the screen just a little tick up, and we're getting retraced pretty much straight away. Always got to check, if you've touched the screen control, always check the brightness control afterwards by turning it down. And make sure there's no retrace on anything in your blacks. If I can get a little bit more out of that screen control. No, pretty much where it was is where it was, I think. I have to set the other pattern generator up so I can see something. See a grayscale on it. Oh, that's better. So it's just lit up on the background there, which is what I would call the correct setting. Gives the customer plenty of range. Gives the TV a bit of, if it ages a bit, gets a bit dimmer, at least there's still some range there. But I'm happy with that, no sign of retrace. Is there still a bit of a grey patch on that? Does seem a little dark down one end, although we've got a little bit of smearing there, so it could be just the tube getting down a bit. Or it could be something in the video amps. Not 100%. But yeah, we'll have a look at that remote, see if I can fix the and yeah, the mains cord has to go in a little slot here. And just be super careful putting the back covers on these sets. Never allow them, hold them in a way they can drop, because often the part of them will hit the picture tube and bust it off it. So always hands under to keep it up before it slots on. Okay, well that goes on nicely. Yeah, we have Scart and mute. So I guess we should check which buttons actually work on here. Let's go back to, I probably just could have pressed on the buttons, but do we have 1, 2, 3? Of course, it's going to go into 4. Come on. Okay, even that goes into 50s and 60s and stuff. That's annoying. 70. Oh yeah, 78. 99, 0, so those buttons all work. We know the I button works. M clear, menu works, TV AV, that's right, I did use that. Ooh, I've got a slight bit of retrace there, so I'm going to have to tweak that. Of course it shows up once you put the back on it. Mute works. Oh yeah, we've got stereo surround, that's probably only going to operate when we're in RF mode with the correct signal. Oh yeah, I've got dynamic standard, music, speech standard, quick view, I'm not sure what that does, standard, ARC, oh we got wide mode, zoom mode, I forgot they had that. Now that they mention it, I vaguely remember some of these having that, but yeah, look at that retrace. So I should have tried it on that screen. Oh, can you actually adjust the zoom? Well, look at, I can't use those buttons. Yeah, well there you go. And oh, these are all VCR functions. So it's going to be mostly those. This did have really rotted batteries in it, but thankfully they didn't seem to do any damage to it. But it'll be good to pull this apart and give it a proper clean. Do these LGs slide or something? I'm trying to remember how they come to bits. think we just got to prise them apart and probably put a few marks on it in the process. Definitely no screw under the battery, no. Been a while since I put one of these apart, but we can get down the side here. There's one little clip right where I was. There's a second one down here. There's the third one, and there must be one up here somewhere, fourth one. Is that enough to get it apart though? I'll start on the other side as well. Where do I start? There somewhere. Doesn't seem to want to come. That's got the end coming loose now. Of course the other side's now popped back in. I'm right in the ball, that's not what I want. Let's hold the end on here. Must be another clip there somewhere. There we go. Yeah, it's a bit of battery muck. Oh, look at the board underneath where the battery was, and you can see crystalline stuff there. So definitely want to clean out any of that alkaline battery muck, because that's potentially corrosive. And probably even brush. Oh, yeah, there's still some stuff in the where the battery terminals were. I'll just brush everything out of there to be sure. Give them an extra good clean. Now that the battery springs are out of the way, it wants all that area where the battery springs were doing, because this stuff will keep on corroding forever otherwise. Well, potentially. But yeah, I'm amazed it did so little damage. Look, there's a blob of... Did I just drop that liquid on there, or was that out of the battery? That's all got crystalline stuff on there, which is probably highly corrosive. And it's a wonder it hasn't ruined the LED, which is sitting right there. I think the legs on it might have gone a little bit off coloured. And that spring's not looking perfect. I actually bent that other spring somehow. I can't remember. I think when I was trying to clean it, it just somehow bent, even though I didn't do much to it. And this has probably had a drink in it. Look at the brown stuff. So, and the fact that that rubber's sticking. Ugh. That's rather disgusting. Even though it's probably something harmless like Coca-Cola or something. Doesn't look real pleasant. Brown stuff coming out of the holes where those buttons were, so I want to try and get as much of that muck, whatever it was, off as possible. Good chance to actually clean the outside. Oh, this thing's disgusting. And then we're going to have issues with this. That bit's not so bad. You do have to be careful with these. If you bend them too hard, you can tear this rubber quite easily. So you've got to be a bit gentle with it. I'll try and clean out the worst of the muck between the keys there. Then I'll have to try and clean the keys themselves, at least the bit that sticks through. Okay, that's that bit. It goes up in that end. So I've cleaned all the underside of the contacts with a bit of metho as well. Just, oh, that looks a million times better still. Oh, you know, they are alright. It's just a bit of liquid on there. Now that, I didn't get the mute one quite right. Anyway, that's as good as it's going to get. Now the important bit is this bit. This absolutely, oh, that is totally stuck on. Yeah, there's a big shiny patch there, and a bit of a dull patch where it was stuck on as well. And we've got, that is more battery damage up there, I think, or battery acid or whatever it is. Alkaline, I guess, technically, but same kind of thing. I think I've got another cotton bud. I'll just try and scrape the worst of that off that end of the board. And it's probably on this little LED. And yeah, it's kind of soaked into the board and discoloured it strangely. Don't think I've noticed that before, but maybe I have. Certainly looked like this thing hadn't been used for a few years. going by the state of the batteries. But at least it got saved, and when the guy was saying he was going to chuck it on the tip if no one came and got it, so which is probably true. And if it was the local tip, then they don't even have a e-waste recycling there, so it probably would have gone into landfill. Which is a bit of a waste, especially as it turns out it's actually got RGB already built into it. Which wasn't the most common feature in Australian TVs, even of this era. Much more like to find component on them, but not RGB Scart or anything. So I'll give all those contacts a good clean with this bit of paper first. Just, my fingers, yuck. Whatever that drink or whatever it is coming off on me, I should have cleaned this side first, I guess. It smells a bit like coffee, actually. Probably what it is. Disgusting. Give that a bit of a soak, I think. I always have to get something on them. But that happens. Yeah, there's actually a bit missing out of that button. The rubber's missing a chunk. But it's nice if you can get everything off, just in case any of it later tries to migrate onto the circuit board or something and cause more issues. Probably wouldn't, but given how sticky this is, I don't think it's going anywhere. But I like to always give them a good clean. Remove any trace that I can of the stuff that's in there. Try and get the worst of that off my hands. You'd think it'd be a nice clean job working on electronics, wouldn't you? Never is though. Unless you're building new stuff. Still probably a little bit, it's not drying out 100%, it's usually a sign that you've still got some sticky stuff in there. May not matter when it's around the edges of those little pads, but like I say, I like to try and get all of it out of there, because people pressing on these things, it may cause it to migrate, like I say, and then the buttons to play up again. We don't even know if these buttons are going to work just by cleaning them, because sometimes it's eating, especially sticky stuff like that, it's eating the actual conductive part off. These look alright, but that doesn't mean a lot. Sometimes you can see it's actually done damage, and sometimes they still look absolutely fine and they don't work at all. Yeah, I think I'm going to need one more the paper again. It's left a little bit of a sticky trail there, I think. And it is taking some of that contact off, which is not a good sign. And there's some muck on the bench there now. Let's get rid of that. Oh, well, fingers crossed. You can hook up a power supply or something just to those couple of terminals. Just to say, putting it back together. Does my power supply go down to 3 volts? I think it does, yeah, roughly. Close enough, it's not going to blow anything. Ooh, we have volume. That's one of the pairs of buttons there, and that would be channel, I think. Channel up. Channel down, I think. We're back in business. Thank God for that. And what's the middle? Oh, okay. So we've got a menu. Manual, language, okay, and it goes into language. Excellent. How do I get rid of it? Oh, menu button, I guess. think that focus is slightly better at least. But we've got a slight retrace issue, so I'm going to have to take the back off again, annoyingly. But at least the remote's going again. I need to clean all that rubbish off there, but that's not a big issue at the moment. Just get those little battery terminals to slide back where they should. They go up behind little plastic bits there, and then you're right to clip it all back together. I probably should have cleaned that out a little bit better actually, but it's not too bad. Menu, excellent. Okay, auto AV off. Oh, what is that? Oh, what does that do? Auto AV. And why is it under the, what was that, the tuning? That's going into, what is it going into? AV but with no sync. That's under program edit, so there's all sorts of stuff hidden in these things. Auto AV on. Get rid of menu. Oh, that's still in channel mode. What happens when we go to AV? AV1. Oh, is that automatically? Yeah, so when you put AV in, it automatically switches and overrides the tune-up by the look of it. But it obviously doesn't go into RGB mode. Interesting. Didn't know they had that feature either, but it's not a lot of use, I guess, but it's for some things it could be. Must detect sync pulses on the AV. Now, contrast, brightness. Let's go back to, what was I on before? Just AV. Yeah, there's our retrace. Oops, double clicked AV1 input, child lock, auto sleep timer. That's interesting though. We seem to have lost our retrace. Or is that because the on-screen display's on or something? What is going on there? Oh yeah, when you turn the on-screen off we get a slight retrace, but when it's on there it disappears, so it must dim the screen automatically or something. Even then you wouldn't think it would override that. Very strange. Yeah, but I've definitely got to tweak that down a bit. Okay, the back's back off. And we don't have any retrace. Oh yeah, there it is, it's starting to come up now. Again, doesn't have to let the tube warm up a bit. So I'm just going to have to tweak that out ever so slightly. Like about there somewhere. Maybe this has some sort of automatic dimming or something. When it's just no signal. Oh, it didn't work. No, what the hell? You don't press select, you just go to brightness and adjust it obviously. And you hit select and it leaves the menu system. That's a bit weird. I'm not sure that's actually getting any brighter when we're just on a raster like that. I guess the other issue is, does it actually do brightness on RGB mode? Mute. Oh, I guess you'll probably get brightness, maybe not the other adjustments. Hard to tell. Let's go to the composite input. There we go. There we are. Staircase pattern or grayscale. It would be better if you could see what was happening, but generally you look at these darker bands, you should be able to see all the bands. You know, we've now got a grey showing up where there wasn't one before, it just both went to black. Still think that could be a little brighter, but I prefer to see that thing start to light up a little bit, the black one. But we've definitely got colour adjustment here, brightness adjustment here. Don't read the words on the screen while you're talking about something else. Also got sharpness. The contrast's actually come off a bit. That's an interesting. I must have bumped that at some point, did I? Oh, that'll get us a bit more brightness. Oh, yeah, there we go. That is lighting up. So I probably did add a little bit, but I must have added just a tad too much before. That's more like what I'd call properly adjusted. Don't know what the sharpness really does, but wrong knob. Ugh, that certainly might show up on that because that's pretty grainy. They're certainly getting a bit more harshness in the video levels there, I think. So set it around 50. Of course, you don't get that in RGB mode, so you don't have to even worry about that. But yeah, I think generally that's looking pretty good. I guess we could check the saturation. Oops. Where are we? I guess that's another way I could have got the grayscale up. Of course, just turn the colour down. You forget that sometimes. A lot of saturation there. So go up to right the way up to 100. Probably somewhere around midway or something will do. Here's the menu. And that is slightly off center. Assuming this pattern generator is accurate. The geometry's pretty good. Slight little bit of pincushion there. Maybe a little dip around there somewhere. I'd have taken that circle off or anything affects it. No, it does bend the screen a little bit if you look. Or is it just, it's affecting something there? I think the line's just getting thinner maybe. It definitely goes outwards, so that, of course, different brightness levels in different parts of the screen can affect the width and stuff. That's actually got a bit of a finer dot pattern on this one. And that's not looking too bad. A little bit out at the edges, but that might be in the corners, as you'd expect. That's where they tend to go as the tube gets a bit softer. Who knows how good it was out of the factory, but that's not too bad looking. Oh, it's an acceptable TV now. I don't really have any use for it anyway, but I thought it'd be interesting to have a play with that LG again, which I haven't done for a while. I want AV. Definitely a much clearer signal, as you'd expect going through RGB. Get that out of the way. So I'll put the back on it. It does need a bit of a clean. There's some muck on the screen which doesn't help it. as far as looking sharp around the corners and stuff and the edges. Oh yeah. Almost looks like it's got a little bit of damage to the tube, but it's just muck on here. Some sort of blob or something there doesn't want to come off, but it's going to need a good clean, I think. But yeah, that corner's not 100%, but it looks a lot better without those little brown patches in the corners and stuff that make it look blurry. I guess the next problem is all this stuff going to come off the front. Unfortunately, it was already like this. It had a pretty easy ride in the back seat with me, so it wasn't me doing that, and I carried the thing out without bumping it into anything. So it's got a few marks on it, which may or may not come off. Hopefully they're not actually scratched into it, they're just where something's rubbed against it. Because even if it works perfect, if the thing looks ratty, it's probably only good for e-waste anyway. If I can get it looking half decent, I think that stuff is going to come off, thankfully. See what happens when it dries. But it'd be nice if it could be found a good home somewhere. Given all sorts of people are asking stupid prices for some of these things these days, when they are still out there for free, even if they do need a little bit of work. And a lot of them still going in the e-waste, but trying to get some of these tip shops and stuff to save them for you, they're really not interested, it seems. And it's always a shame. I like to save a few portables at least, just some of the old, especially the old 80s portables and stuff are quite cool TVs, some of them, even though they're not much good for anything now. Oh, that is filthy. It's got some sort of muck on it, the whole LG badge is covered in it. Not very golden badge on it. Imagine how dirty these TVs get over the years. But yeah, that's, I think those marks are largely gone. We'll see. You can never tell until it's dry. I'm just doing the top cover's got all sorts of funny marks on it too. You see that, you wonder whether you should even grab the thing, but often that clean up alright. It's just, I think it's just got some greasy sort of stuff on the cabinet. And the marks are in that. Once you get that off, and back to bare plastic. This one's almost like it's been in the kitchen or something, which it may well have been. So I'm getting those little rolls of greasy stuff coming off it. But anyway, as long as it's set, it seems it's just got a greasy layer on it, I think. And those marks are just sort of scrape marks into the grease. Well, that's a relief. Be shame to chuck it out now. And yeah, there's still some greasy stuff along the tube. The tube needs a really good scrub. It's got patches on it. But it's still running, so let's wash the mic. And yeah, that remote, I'll see if I can get all this, whatever that is. That's like a bit of, that's chocolate, I think. Something very much like chocolate. And get his label off there. And a bit of meth, I should get the glue off from under that. And that'll probably look half decent then. Looks like we got ourselves a $300 retro gaming TV with RGB input here. Just like that. At least if I was going to list it on eBay, I'd be saying something like that, I guess. So even been serviced, so it's got to be worth at least $300, hasn't it? Interesting, the remote doesn't seem to have any type number or anything on it. Maybe it's worn off it. Oh yeah, it was probably down here. LG what does it say something? I think I can almost read that. Maybe with a magnifying glass and the right angle of light. Oh god, 6710V and 40 something U. Maybe 000. It's not a 2, and it looks a bit like a little Z. Something. What number would that be? Part of a 3, maybe. Of course, the important information's missing. Always nice to know and make a note of what remote goes with what TV, because often you find they have some random one with them. I don't know for sure this is the right one for this TV, but I would assume so. But anyway, that all seems to be running. I'll put the back on it and might give that a bit more of a clean up, and probably have to find a new home for it. I do want to get a PlayStation 1 going again. My old PlayStation has died and I can't get it going. I put a new laser in it, still didn't run, so I've ordered another one off eBay because I can't even find one locally that's any good. So it will be good to have a go, especially on RGB, and see what some of these old PlayStation games look like on it. But I don't think I'll keep a TV for just playing that. But there's one possible use for it, otherwise yeah, I think I'll have to find a new home for it. But we'll have a look at this other Celestial, whatever the hell it was called, and see what that one's like. I think it's just a Chinese type TV. Looks very much like the era, the silver case one, when they were flat screen, but I'm pretty sure it is still a curved one, so it was one of the last curved TVs they put out, I'd say. But anyway, thanks for watching.